Hello and welcome to Nitro Talk. If you are like me and you like to burn one every now and then, tank of nitro, that is, burn a tank of nitro, then please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate join our little nitro community here. All right, I figured today, for a change, let's do some work on a Hyper 7. We don't get to do that very often, right? I've had this idea for a long time. I don't know why I haven't done it. Probably because I don't really have a lot of problems here. So it's not really something that I'm fixing a problem that I have. I've just kind of had this idea for a while. So most of these Hyper 7s come with universals in the front and dog bones all the rest of the way around. The dog bones in the rear, dog bones in the centers. The Hyper 7 Pro comes with universals all the way around, but most of them just have them in the front. And I've always thought, well, why don't I snag some out of the front of one of my parts buggies and throw them in the rear of my race buggy so I can have front and rear universals. Why not, right? Well, we got to make sure that they're going to fit properly. Just because front and rear should be the same shafts doesn't mean that they're going to fit and run properly. They should. I don't see why not. We especially with this being the pillow ball rear, we can adjust the track in and out. So should be no problem getting these to fit in the rear of the Hyper 7. So let's go ahead and see if we can get that done. Now, I went ahead first and yacked a universal out of this Parts Hyper PCR. Real quick, a little note on that. The easiest way to get to service your drive shafts on the pillow ball front end is to remove the hinge pin right here and come on in that way. This is going to take you quite a while to remove one of these to get up in there. All right, so I did that. Let's go ahead and move that out of the way. I got my shaft out of there, and I was going to pull one out of a much more used buggy, and it had, these pins are pretty good. This buggy didn't have a whole lot of use on it, but the other one I was going to pull them out of, the pins on here were pretty worn. So I was going to replace the pins, make them brand new with my Mugen Seiki pin replacement tool here. Awesome piece here. I do have a video of this on the channel. Check that out. It is a super cool tool to have. All right, so we got our universal out. So the next step is to pull apart our rear end here and see how it's going to fit. Oh, one thing I wanted to do, I want to kind of I want to set this suspension to level, and I'm going to come in here and let me see if we can move my drive shaft back and forth and just see where it sits in the cup here off of the diff. I want to make sure that the universal is sitting in approximately the same range as the dog bones that are on there now. So once I've done that, got my eyeball on how that should sit, I'm going to go ahead and start taking this apart, take the wheel off. And I'll release this top link right here. Should be a 2.5 millimeter. And a little Tamiya 4-way to hold the other end. Come on out of there. And put that in there. And take this nut off of here. Pull that out, release that, and our dog bone should pop right out. Now, this is why I'm doing this in this buggy. So I got 2 Hyper 7s I'm running right now, and I can put these universals in the rear of either one. The other one, this rear end here, this rear end actually came off of this buggy here. This whole rear end setup was pulled right off of here. This is a Hyper PCR. The Hyper PCR came with all aluminum drive shafts, front, rear, and centers. And I've had the aluminum drive shaft discussion a couple times. I do like them. They are insanely light. There's like nothing in your hand when you feel these. So rotating mass is lowered when using these aluminum drive shafts. But you know what? I got one right here. I'm sure this is my little Hyper 7 drive shaft bag. I've never had a steel dog bone do that, but I have had it happen at least twice to an aluminum. The end just shears right off. So it is a worthy upgrade to swap in these steel universals from take out these aluminum dog bones. All right. I'm going to take out my drive. The heck, while I'm undoing this, let me try to think of what the heck that thing is called. Drive cup on the other end. It's a drive shaft. I mean, not a drive shaft, but a wheel hub is this part. I can't ever remember all the names to all this stuff. I've got I figured this out earlier. I've got this broken 1.5 millimeter here, MIP hex driver. It's broken. I found out earlier this can be a good pin pushing tool. It's kind of jagged on the end, so I'll probably smooth it out and use it like that to push pins out. Take that off of there, and this is going fairly quick and easy. So there, axle. That's an axle. All right. Before I took that out, I should have got a good feel on these bearings. And, they spin freely. They feel ever slightly gritty. They'll be all right. All right. So our bearings are in place. Let me go ahead and see if I could. Whoa. Now this is going to have to go around my shock and my sway bar there. So let me pre-feed it up where it needs to be. And see if I could get it through these bearings. Come on now. This would be a lot easier with this. What? That feels gritty as heck. Be a lot easier with this removed. Let me see if I can push it through and then get it through. There we go. Got it through there. Sway. Just gotta pop it under the sway bar there, not too bad. And let me see. It is a little short. Can I shim it from behind? I don't have a whole lot of room to do that. Yeah, that's probably gonna sit about there. And yeah. So they are too short. But can that be taken up by bringing this in? Where does this like to sit? Right there. And I don't think this is gonna work. I think these front universals are too short to use as drive shafts in the rear. Need all that we can get. Yeah. If I bring that in, I've only got like maybe a 3-4 millimeter gap. If I close that up all the way, it's still not even going to get me deeply into the cup like I like. It's just sitting too far out. It's sitting right at the edge of the cup. Well, and I thought, how can I actually check this before I do it? I take these parts, just kind of eyeball. Yeah, that's even with this dog bone pushed all the way in, it's still, let me line these up together. Now that's longer than that, but all the extra length is on the outside. See that? If I line those up next to each other at the top, and the bottom is longer on the universal. Does that mean I can, and that length there to there is still the same to the hole. It's all after the hole. All right, well, there's that. We gave it a shot. All right, don't go nowhere. We're not done with this thing. Yeah, the universals aren't going to go, but we got to put this thing back together, and I figure I'm going to swap out these aluminum drive shafts, put some steel in there that I can be a lot more confident in. So, what I like to do when putting back together a dog bone setup like this, I'll take my axle there, set it on my sand and sponge, set this part of the shaft on the sand and sponge. I'll press it down and I'll give it a few spins, and that'll make sure that is nice and smooth. Go in nice and easy. Oh yeah, lovely. Those bearings feel great. They're fine. All right. So, all right. Shafts I've got. You know, when I was looking for my shafts, I saw these and I was like, is that just a spare set of fronts? I'm sure it is, but I'm going to double check because they looked a bit... they are a touch longer. Are those rear? Are those rear universals? What about this end? This end is the same. But that, it doesn't look enough longer to make a huge difference. me see. It'd be nice if these fit back here great. They seem to be a decent amount longer when trying to finagle them into here. Come on. Bearing wanting to come out. All right. Now this one, I am going to release my sway bar and move it out of the way because I barely was able to sneak it by before. So I don't think I'm going to be able to this time. Can I move it out of the way with just releasing these? Probably not. Will it slide it all the way off? No. I hate, this is a tough screw to get to. This one that holds the sway bar in at the bottom. Alright, let me do it this way. Release both of those and remove this in the back, red, so that unscrew both of these. I'll have to reinstall this sway bar, and I'll show you how I do that. Well, those all right, sway bar is out. And so then should be able to come right around and down. Ooh. You know, that looks like enough. That's definitely enough meat. Let me see how it looks with this on. Oh, yeah. Rear universals, you know. I'm not going to leave them in. I'm taking them out. I'm pretty sure, yes, I got those for use in my Ultimate Hyper 21, which I'm not even going to drive. So I bought those to put in something to sit on the shelf. I don't know how much sense that makes. Do I want to use them? I do want to use them, but I also want to not use them. I believe that's the only set I've got of those. I've got probably 8 sets of front universals, but those appear to be the upgrade rear universals. Probably still, I'm sure they're still available. Probably 30, 40 bucks or so for the pair. Dog bones are fine in the rear. That's another thing, you know, that's weighing on my mind. It's not like I have problems with my rear end setup in the Hyper 7. You know what I mean? I don't want to use those. I do, but I don't more. I guess let me put it that way. So I am going to run dog bones back here. So let me go ahead and do a steel dog bone swap. I've got a rear end here. So there should be 2 brand new steel dog bones in here. Pull those out. Oh yeah, those are nice and thick. I figured I didn't think those were going to be that thick. Let me see, exact same size as the aluminum one I just took out. Yes, very nice, brand new set of steel dog bones. So our bearing is good. Our axle goes through the bearing. And our dog bone just connects. Now, what I used to do sometimes, if you had an axle that was prone to popping out, a dog bone that was prone to popping out, it was a little short for its application. Used to take and cut a little piece of the fuel line and stick it up in the drive cup in both ends, just a little tiny piece, and that keeps the dog bone centered in between them. It can't go all the way into either one. That's how they pop out, is it goes all the way into one and then it pops out the other. But little tiny pieces of nitro fuel line in there will keep the dog bone centered and not let it go all the way. You shouldn't have to do that. Your buggy should not pop a dog bone unless you got something wrong with the setup or the wrong dog bone. All right, I got my one steel in there. I'm going to go ahead and reattach this. We are going to shim and install the wheel. I'll show you how I do that. Add this up top. Go ahead and close down that 2.5 millimeter, and I will lock this in place. How y'all doing today? Hope everyone's having a great one. Oh yeah, it's gonna take out slop when you have a dog. Now this dog bone wasn't that worn. Not a whole lot of flat spot on it. A little bit. But it's not bad yet. I always like replacing dog bones when they, replace the pins and replace it, or just replace the whole drive shaft. There's one with some, you want to see, I showed this in the video where I replaced a pin with this Mugen Seiki tool. I showed some of these really beat dog bones here. Check this one out. Look at that thing. Oh, get a good see that. That thing is worn. Got some really flat spots on that thing. All right, let's get back to what we're doing. So, we're going to shim this thing. Where is my, that is my wheel hub. It's a wheel hub, I think. I'm going to put this on here and put my pin through, and I'm going to check for slop. See how it feels, how much room I got. Push my pin all the way through. Well, I tell you what, it moves freely, but very, very little. Let me make sure my shaft is pulled all the way through. I don't know if I even want to put one shim on that. You know what? Just to, well, you know what? First, let me throw this tire on here. And I'll see how that feels with the wheel tightened down. Oh, that feels lovely. So I'll take and see how much slop I've got, which is almost none at all. Just enough to where it moves nice and free. That is lovely. So Sometimes you don't have to shim, but if you have slop there, it is imperative to shim it out. Shim out that slop. I am asking for the Tamiya non-marring plastic jaw channel lock style pliers. I'm asking for those for Christmas. I'll see if I get them, and I'll show you if I do. All right, we got one steel axle in place. Everything's buttoned back up. Put the wheel back on. And we'll swap out that other side. And maybe we'll need a shim over there. Alright, y'all still... Nope, y'all ain't in view good. Let me move this out of the way. And I'll bring this... Don't get anything mixed up. That's the... So that's the universal I took out. That's the aluminum I took out. And that's the steel I'm about to put in. Don't need the rest of these drive shafts hanging out and confusing me. So I'm going to put those back where they go. Alright. Take that off. Take that off. While I've got this still locked down, I'm going to try to see if I can get that pin out. Sometimes those pins can be a pain. And loosen this 2.5mm grub screw inside the axle. And remember, that's my 1.5mm. That's my broken 1.5mm. See if this... Push that pin right out. That's my pin pushing tool. And coming apart fairly easily. And I'll remove this. This dog bone has got some schmutz on it. Some hardcore here. You'll see in a second. Alright. Take that and... Yeah, that's some engine oil and dirt gotten onto that one. Those bearings feel fine as well. I don't feel the need to mess with those, but I will mess with this axle. Like I said, they get really gummy bunch of crap on there, so I always like to give them a clean up with the sanding sponge. Just press it, set it right like that, press it down into the sponge, and give it some spins. That leaves you with a nice, smooth shaft. Alright, bearings are good. And reinstall our shaft. And put our new steel dog bone in there. This rear end is going to be much more robust with these steel dog bones. Going to be a touch heavier, but I don't think that is going to be a big factor. My rotating mass, but I don't think it's as important as the confidence now that I have that I'm not going to bust one of those aluminum dog bones. All right, let's tighten this back down, and then we're going to reinstall that sway bar. I'll show you how I do that. All right, we're pushed all the way through. We'll go ahead and check our fit again, see if we need a shim. This is going on a lot easier once I clean that axle. Yeah, that's feeling. Yeah, no shims required on these. That feels beautiful yet again. Let me go ahead and tighten it down. Real good. And I'll throw my wheel back on with nut. And check for slop. Beautiful. That is about as lovely as you can get. That's essentially no slop, just enough to move freely. Yeah, that doesn't always work out so great like that, but it worked out great that time. So we have steel dog bones. There's our set of aluminums. And these are, they're not in bad shape. They're not really worn. Come on now. Well, I want that focus. There you go. They're not real worn. Come on. There you go. Yeah, they're not worn. So I'm definitely gonna hold on to those, and I can always go back to aluminum if I'd like. That goes in there. All right, let's go ahead and throw that sway bar back on, and we can move on to the next video. So this thing's pretty dirty. I'm just going to hit it on this sand and sponge a bit here and there. Maybe spin it a few times. And just get all of that off of there. Make it nice and smooth and pretty again. Making sure to get our center section here. Lovely. All right. So now we got a nice, clean and smooth rear sway bar. Let's go ahead and take those all the way out. The one is all the way out, so take the other one all the way out as well. And I'll feed it into the cups that accept it. One on each side. There we go. And then I'll set it in place right there where it goes. All right. So the sway bar is installed through the front holders, connectors, and it is sitting in the channel where it sits in the rear. I'm going to go ahead and start these. Did I change this? I might have changed this. I'm not sure if these are set up exactly like this, if it has this flange around it, or if I added the flange. I think it comes with the flange. So I want to start these retaining screws in the back. And I'm going to tighten them until, kind of like you're doing a head, you screw it down until you feel it touch, but you don't tighten it at all. Basically going to do that to both sides, tighten them down until they touch the sway bar. So all right, so now they're both in contact with the sway bar. I'm going to unscrew it, each one, until they just release it, to where they're essentially all the way butted up against the sway bar, but not holding it down at all. So I'm going to put those about right there. So the sway bar can move back and forth freely. It can pivot freely, but it cannot come out of there. The screws are all the way up to it, but not putting any tension on the sway bar at all. Just basically closing it in its little channel right there. This one feels like it's rubbing it a touch. I'm going to release that a little bit more. You want this to be able to pivot totally freely. You don't want any tension on it at all. Okay, that feels better. My sway bar can pivot up and down and move back and forth totally freely. So now for these front connectors, all I do is set them up. I make sure that the sway bar is even in the rear. It's perfectly centered. It's not more on one side or the other. So let me do that. Make sure it is perfectly level. All right. And then I will set these front mounts straight up and down. I'll move it along the sway bar. I don't want it leaning this way. I don't want it leaning that way. I want it standing straight up. So I'll slide it along the sway bar until it is standing straight up, and then I will lock it in place right there. Come to the other one, slide it back and forth on the sway bar until it is standing straight up. And I will lock that one as well. So if you can see, those are standing straight up. I'm free movement, but held in place. That is how I do my sway bars. So, all right, we should be ready to tear the track up. Not quite yet. We are going to be, if y'all watched, we're going to be swapping in the Nova Rossi rolling with Works power clutch. And I have decided that on the rolling, I'm going to run the Nova Rossi 2096 pipe. I love the brace right there. So we're all set on the back, right? I always want to, when I do a job like that, I want to look it over really well and make sure I didn't forget anything. I lock those back down. They're locked in everywhere. Everything's screwed back in. I should be solid gold in the rear. We'll see you next time when we swap that engine. See you on the track. Y'all have a great day. You know, that wasn't very satisfying, not needing any shims in the rear, because I want to show y'all how I shim my wheel axles. So while these are absolutely lovely as far as no slop in the rear, the same cannot be said about the front on this one. As you see, got a fair amount of slop in that. Now you're always going to have a little bit more slop in the front than the rear because of the pillow balls. They need a little bit of slop in them to be free, but we might be able to take up some of that. So I'm going to pull this off and let's see. Can we see good? All right. Oh, and I noticed sometimes I put my arm and it blocks when I'm doing stuff. I try to be more mindful of making sure y'all can see what I'm doing. So take that off. And now, I'll go ahead and show you how I adjust these pillow balls. And now this one, like I had mentioned the other day, this buggy is kind of in the middle. My other Hyper 7 with the STS in it has been rebuilt front to back, more recent than this one. This is still, it's not ready for a total rebuild yet, but there are some things that are starting to show their age, and this front end is one of them. So I'm going to, okay, let me show you how I adjust these. You know, I was hoping maybe that would fit in there. I've got a hex key in here that I use on this front end. Let me go ahead and fish it out of here real quick. And of course, it fell down. Alright, so that right there I use on these retainers. Let me think for a second. Okay, yeah, so this is how, so hold the suspension level. You don't want to do this with it pressed up or down. You want to level out your arms and then kind of feel, okay, I got some on the bottom there I could take up. This top is pretty tight. Any more, and that might bind a bit. I'm just going to close it just like a 1/16 of a turn. That still feels all right. That's about how I like that. Just a ever slight little tick of space on that pillow ball. But as you can see, this bottom one, that has a little bit more than a tick of space. So I'm going to take my tool here and I'm going to close in this retainer until I feel the amount of play that I want. This was considerably loose, so this is going to help with my slop in the front end. That's starting to feel really good right there. Just a little tick of slop. Now, you want to make sure, now we did that holding it straight, right? But you also want to let it all the way down. Make sure you still can move it. Push it all the way up to the top. Those are pretty tight up there. I'm going to kick them both open just like a 1/16 of a turn. There we go. You want to have movement. You want to have your little tick of space at the entire length of travel, okay? So not just in the middle. Drop it down, make sure you got a little bit, push it all the way up. Make sure you got just a little bit. All right, so that is perfect right there. I've got it as tight as it can be and still have its full range of travel. Yeah, it looks like we might be able to get a shim. Yeah, I got a little bit of slop in the steering link. There's slop multiplies, okay? When you have a setup like this front end here, if you have a teeny bit of slop here and there and here, it's going to multiply together and, you know, make you feel pretty sloppy. You know, let me throw this on here and see if I can just feel for slop in the hub. I'm going to hold the pillow ball front and see how it feels. So I'm going to hold, put it level, and hold that. Yeah, there's some slop we can take up with a shim. All right, let me take this back off. All right, yeah, cool. I wanted to show you how I do this. And these shims, I love this set of shims that I got here. Let me go ahead and take this apart. 2.5 millimeter. Am I blocking? Sorry. Release the pin. My little broken pin pushing tool. Now, I'm sure I've got some shims on here. Probably. Oh yeah. There we go. So there's the shims that I have on it now. You know, I'm going to take my sanding sponge here and come around my axle, clean it up a bit because this thing is filthy. And I like these axles nice and smooth. So I'm going to come, I could, I guess, maybe hold it there and spin that, but I'd have to lock my center. Easier just to hold it and come around. Alright, that is looking a lot better. Little spot right there. Lovely. Alright. So, let me kind of measure these shims that I've got on here. And you know what? Those are kind of gritty as well. I'm going to take those, just give them a really quick smoothing on my sanding sponge. One. It's a thicker one here. And two. Alright. I think this is a 0.3, maybe. A little bit more, 0.4. Oops. Alright. Oh. Oh, I must have had something in there. Alright. Alright, there we go. This one is a 0.45. It's a big one. And this one is 0.25. So I have 0.7 of shims that were on there. These are the shims. This is my little shim bag here. And I keep this in here because if I ever need to reorder, this is what I order. 8 by 10 millimeter shim set, number 96644. And with that set, you get these bags right here. Come on out of there. 0.2s. 0.3s, and is it 0.4s or 0.1s? Maybe just 2s and 3s. I don't know. 0.1. So 0.1s, 0.2s, and 0.3s come in that set right there. All right. That was a pretty significant amount of slop. So I'm going to try a 0.3. I'm going to try adding one of these 0.3 shims. Just one. I always go with the largest shim first on the bottom. So put that one, then our new number 3, and then that 0.25 one. And we'll push those shims up onto the axle. Make sure that this is pulled all the way out. I'm pulling this all the way out. And I'm going to see if I can get my pin into here. Let's see. It's a little tight, even just trying to get it into here. It's a little rough going, but should be able to get it in. All right, pull it all the way out. Push that all the way up. And got it most of the way. There we go. Now it is pretty. Now that is too tight. It's starting to bind. So 0.2 should probably be perfect. So let me go ahead and remove that 0.3 shim that I had added. It is in the middle. It helps to get the shims off. I'll push the axle all the way that way, and then push it back out, and it pushes the shims up and off so you can grab them. Alright, so there's that 0.3 I just put on. Let me put that back in its bag. And let me grab a 0.2. Just one, yep. Alright, I'll put that shim on. Other shim on. So we got a 0.9 millimeter shim stack apparently on here. Put our pin back through. Goes in a bit easier now. Alright. Time to get up. Alright. Our pin is back in. Moves nice and freely. Let's check our slop. Let me go ahead and tighten down this 2.5 millimeter here onto our pin. Make sure our pin is locked. Don't mangle up my axle there. Oop, don't lose that. All right, wheel back on. Tighten down. All right. Free movement. So I'm going to try to level it out. Hold on to the pillow ball. Oh, that is... You know what? That's a bit tight. I feel like, okay, yeah, it's a little bit, it's holding the bearing a little bit. Yeah, that felt really sloppy to just need one more 0.1 millimeter. But yeah, that 0.2 is kind of grabbing. So I'm going to pull it out of there. You don't, if it's not right, you don't leave it. And I am mangling the crap. I told y'all that I'm asking for the non-marring pliers for Christmas. I hope I get them. Alright. Yeah, bearing feels great now. It's not, bearing isn't gritty unless it's being compressed. So take back out that 0.2 shim that I just put on there. And we will put on, oh, let me put that back in its bag so I don't got to measure it and look for it. Grab my 0.1s here. And I'll grab, make sure I got just one. And that one's going to go on the outside now. The other one should have as well, because that is the smallest. Alright. Now, hub. You know what? Do I need purple hubs on here? I got this hub that I pulled off the PCR when I pulled that shaft off. I don't have a full set. I just have purples in the front because remember I said I swapped that whole rear end out. Do I have more purple ones in there? I don't see any purple ones in there. I'm going to go ahead and just reinstall the purple one. Oh, the other purple ones are on that rear end that came off of there. So I'll grab those one of these days and swap out the rears. Alright. Grip that. Mangle it up some more. Lock in our pin. There we go. Now that is rolling freely. More important than taking up slop. I don't like slop. I like taking up slop as much as possible. But at the sacrifice of free movement, no. You got to have, that is lovelier. So now I'm going to hold it. Got a little bit. It's more than in the rear. But it is less than it was, and it's less overall because we took some out of the pillow ball as well. So actually, let me see how this side is looking. That side. Not as, what am I feeling? Oh, that link there keeps shifting. That side feels good. So I like it. You know what? How's this pillow ball over here? Yeah, that bottom is a little loose on that side as well. Let me go ahead. This is maintenance on these things. You got to do this stuff. In between races, you need to check and tighten up stuff every now and then. It's just the way these go. So let me hold that level again. Hold that level and check my top. Not much play at all. Check my bottom. A little bit more play. So I'm going to tighten this in. Not a whole lot. I'll feel that. Drop it all the way down. Feel it down there. Push it all the way up. Feel it up there. I can still tighten it just a little bit more. Feels good there. Just ever so slightly bit of play at the bottom. All the way up. Just a touch. So that is perfect. Front. Good. Front. Top good. All right, so those are both now nice and adjusted to where you have just a ever slight bit of play at the full range of motion. All right, so put this back on, and that is front end maintenance, I guess, on a pillow ball suspension on the Hyper 7. Make sure your wheel nuts are tightened down good. Oh yeah. Now, I always thought it looks like I got a bit more toe out than I need on this thing. How can you see that? Let me I could open up these links right here a touch, and that will take away some of that. It does handle good. You know what? Yeah, I'm not going to mess with that toe out, because like I said, it does. Is this one the one that drives? I think the other one drives a bit better. You know what? I am going to adjust that toe out just a little bit. Which way is tight on this thing? Is it that way? I think, yeah, that's coming in. And so this one would be coming in the opposite way. Take that one that way a couple turns. Alright, yeah, I'm going to try that. It's, oh no, what the heck did I just do? I gave it more toe out. I did the exact opposite of what I needed to do. Where'd I go? I went down, yeah. These links need to go outward to make the toe go inward in the front. I am slow sometimes. So I need to put back the couple turns that I just took out of it and throw in a couple more turns to open it up. And come on out of there. This one. Now I'll go this way. And this hook is not the tool to be doing this with. Actually, how about my broken 1.5? Yeah. Well, this tool works. Let me take a look at that before I, come on now. Take a look at that before I keep going. And, okay, I kind of like the look of that. There we go. So I definitely want some toe out in the front. Help you drive a straight line. You actually cannot drive a straight line if all of your tires are perfectly level, even with each other. You'll wander. So you want some toe out. A good amount of toe out. Don't get me wrong. It helps with your turning. But I closed it in just a little bit. I still got some toe out. And I will check and see how that feels on the track. All right, we all locked down in the front. Everything's closed up, yeah. These locks up here that lock your pillow balls into position. I don't check these very often. Those both felt like they needed a lockdown, so those are locked down now. I think I went through here and checked all these bolts the other day. The shock tower going into the, I didn't like that. That's good and tight. And that's good and tight. Feel like we got a stripped one here. This top won't tighten. So I'm going to unscrew it. And can I go much longer? Looks like I can go a bit longer. You know, I could even drill that out, send it all the way through, and put a nut behind it right there. I don't know if that would weaken that dog ear to have more, have it drilled out, or if the nut on the back tightening it together would make it stronger. Not 100% positive, but for right now, yeah, got some plastic on that nut there. That's stripped out. I'm going to do the old zip tie trick on this one. Where are my zip ties? So I'm going to take this zip tie, stick it in the hole, and then I'm going to snip it a little bit beyond, so that if you push it in, it sticks out a little bit, you see. Then I'm going to take, I'm going to need leverage, so I'm going to have to put it this way. Then I'm going to take my bolt I just took out, screw it into there with, as you can see, the zip tie is in there next to the threads. So as it tightens down, I'm actually going to, that piece sticking out is going to get in the way of the bolt tightening down all the way. So I'm going to take my X-Acto and I'm going to snip that piece of zip tie that's sticking out, because I've got it all the way into the hole. That's where I needed it, back there with the plastic. So cut off the tip of that zip tie now. And now I should be able to tighten this and get a good tighten on it. Get it all the way in, and oh yeah, it feels great now. Nice and tight. That was a stripped hole in a plastic part. The old zip tie trick feels, I can get it, that nut but bolt there nice and tight again. All right, are we done for today? I think we're done for today. We did some maintenance. We tightened her up. I think she's going to feel great on the track this next time I come out. A little bit tighter, got some steel dog bones in the rear, and we're going to have a new engine in it. I think we're going to have a blast. See y'all then.